Welcome back. So let's talk about tank destroyers. You might love them, you might hate them, they might be the bane of your existence, taking your poor tank out from under you. But to me, they're just kind of meh. And I don't think they should be. So why, might you ask, is the mighty tank destroyer meh? Well, okay, let's start it out. Let's start it here, right? They're not all meh. Okay? The Agged Panther, which is a BR5 premium, unfortunately not available these days. Pick it up if you ever see it come back. That thing is a monster. And it's a monster because it's mobile, it's got a big gun, the armor doesn't hold up quite as well as it once did, but, you know, it used to have pretty good armor. I'm pretty sure it has a machine gun. Well, it's been a minute since I've driven it. I think it's got a machine gun, but it fits its BR very well. That's why it's good. It's hull locked. Yes, it's at the same BR as the Tiger 2H, but it's got a gun that's powerful enough to go through whatever it sees, and it doesn't really feel like it's lacking in any major way. Now, admittedly, for the same reason that I'm going to complain about the other tank destroyers, I also don't generally bring it on my lineups anymore. And that's just that there are better alternatives at its tech tree. That being said, for being a premium and whatnot, like, it served me very well up until I had the Tiger 2P and the Tiger 2H, but nowadays, I have the Tiger 2P, I have the Tiger 2H, they both have turrets, they both have armor. The Tiger 2P has not so good turret face armor, but the rest of the tank is pretty well armored. So generally speaking, I'd rather have them. But as far as just about every other tank destroyer in the game, you've probably heard me talk about this before. I think they all need to go down. I think they're all over BR'd. So why is that? Well, if we look at, let's say, BR3. Let's look at BR3 Germany. At BR3 Germany, you can get the Martyr 3, the Martyr 3H specifically. The other Martyr 3 is actually BR2. But you have the Martyr 3H with its Pack 40, its L46. You have the Stug 3F with the L43. You have the Panzer F2 with an L43, the Panzer 4G with an L43, the Panzer 4J with an L48, and functionally there's not a big difference between them. And you've got the Stug 3G with its L48. And here's the thing, right? When's the last time that you actually saw somebody driving around in a Stug? I see tons of Panzer 4Js. I see some Panzer 4Gs. And I probably see a few Panzer 4F2s, and I just think that they're Panzer 4Gs. But the point here is that I almost never see the hull-locked tanks. Why is that? Well, I'll give you my interpretation. My interpretation as to why I don't bring them is because I like having a turret. In a game like Enlisted, where tanks feel like glass cannons, because every infantryman is an anti-tank soldier. Every guy can run around with an explosive pack, AT mines, or TNT set. Like, every fifth guy or every sixth guy can be a proper AT soldier with his Panzerfaust or his bazooka. It creates a very hostile environment to be a tank. And that's before you look at things like planes and other tanks, and it's a very difficult environment to be a tank. And situational awareness, the ability to react to an ever-changing battlefield, and yes, in this case, the ability to look left and right, are kind of a big deal. When it comes to tank destroyers, I feel like they need to be a step above their tank counterparts. They are tank destroyers, after all. Their goal is to destroy tanks. I mean, some of them are assault guns, but by and large, the purpose of a tank destroyer is to destroy tanks. This is doubly so when you look at the open-top tank destroyers. Why, might I ask, would you ever want to bring a Marder 3? You're hull-locked, you're open-topped, so your crew's completely exposed, so you can get killed by all of the infantry weapons that are already good against every other tank, but now you're vulnerable to things like bombs that don't hit near you, rockets that missed you, flamethrowers and Molotovs, rifle fire and machine gun fire. All the things that, normally infantry are vulnerable to, because you're just a dude riding on top of a tank now. It, in my opinion, creates a situation where these vehicles don't get the representation that they probably should. My solution is simple. You should never have a tank destroyer be at the same BR as its fully fledged tank counterpart. So, functionally, what does that mean? Well, it means that the Marder should probably be BR3. Or BR2, sorry, it starts at BR3. The Stug should probably be BR2. The early Stug should probably be BR1, to be honest. Not that that would actually make any difference, since BR1 and 2 play together, like, permanently. The Panzer 470V should be BR4. The Panzer 470 and the Jagd Panzer 4 should be BR3. The Flak Bus should be BR3. The Dickermax actually, I think, can stay where it is. That's one of the exceptions. The Dickermax, I actually think they placed it exactly where it should go, which is a rarity, given the theme of what we're discussing today. But, if you look at the American tech tree, the M10 should probably be a BR3. The Hellcat, I feel like it should stay at BR4, but with the acknowledgement that it's not good at BR4 because the maps can't actually be used for its mobility. Like, I feel like it should go to BR3, but I also feel like the Hellcats are really good. It should go to BR3, who am I kidding? It's at the same BR as the M10 right now. Yeah, it probably could go to BR3. Same with, like, the Russians. I feel like most of their stuff, like, the Su-100, like, it could stay at BR5. I think it would feel better at BR4. It's a tank destroyer, after all. Like, this is the thing, right? The way that I'm looking at this is, every time that I look at one of these vehicles, I think to myself, why do I not play that? Well, why do I not play the Panzer 470 at BR5? Well, I don't play it at BR5 because I already don't really play my Jagd Panther, and my Jagd Panther is significantly better than it. But, if we're just looking at tech tree stuff, why not play it? I'd rather play a Tiger 1 at BR4. There is a Tiger 1 at BR4. I'd rather play a Tiger 1 at BR5. I'd rather play a Tiger 2 at BR5. Well, it feels like it invalidates it. And what exactly is the Panzer 470? Like, what sets it apart from a Panther? It's got the 75mm Pak 42, which I'm fairly certain is almost the same thing, if not the same thing, with like maybe a different breech than the KWK 42 that the Panther 2s already drive around with. So if it's effectively just a Panzer IV hull with a Panther gun, I don't feel like it belongs at the same BR as a Panther, because a Panther has probably more mobility. I'm just assuming because it's a Panther versus a Panzer IV hull. They've got the same gun, and it's got a turret. In my experience at BR4, I've always brought Panthers. With the addition of the Tiger H1, I bring the Tiger H1, but if I bring more than one tank, then I bring Panthers. I've never, like, again, using Germany BR4 for an example, I've never felt the need to bring a Panzer IV-H at BR4. Like, I used to bring it occasionally back in the Normandy campaign, just to, like, shake things up. And I used it a little bit before I had the Panther there, but I got the Panther in Normandy very quickly. And then I just brought Panthers. So if I'm not bringing the Panzer IV-H, then, you know, why would I bring a Jagdpanzer IV or a Panzer IV-70A? I think I might actually use them if they were a BR lower. Like, at BR3, I would probably play the Panzer IV-70A from time to time. Certainly if the Stug was BR2, like the Stug 3F, it would have a spot in my lineup. There are times where I'll run like a 3-tank lineup just for funsies. Some days I feel like, you know, running the Blitzkrieg. And usually it'll be like a Panzer IV-E, a Panzer III-N, and like the premium Panzer III-N. Now all those have the short 75. Sometimes I'll shake it up and I'll bring like a Panzer III-J just to have a little bit more punching power with the 50 mil, but like generally speaking, I bring those three. If there was a Stug 3F down there, I would absolutely bring it. It would be one of the 3 tanks that I would bring because it would be able to handle tanks very well. As far as dealing with infantry, I'd still rather have the Panzer IV-E just because the short 75 is bonkers at dealing with infantry. You can just reload it so fast. But I would absolutely bring a Stug 3F to deal with other tanks. I would even consider bringing the Martyr 3H. I probably would actually bring the Martyr 3H as like dedicated anti-tank in a lineup like that. Admittedly, I'm thinking of this from my own perspective of having lots of slots. If I only had one slot, I'd still probably be bringing like the Panzer IV F1 or like the Panzer III-N or the Panzer IV-E. One of those would probably, because I usually care more about taking out infantry when I bring a tank, but I know some people care more about taking out other tanks. Likewise, if I look at America, I would actually be inclined to use the M10 or to use the M18 if they were a lower BR. I would actually look at getting the Achilles if it were not BR4. And I understand because they have the APDS, that's probably why it sits at BR4. The problem for me is that I don't feel like it's worth bringing an open top tank like the Achilles at BR4. Like, it's positioned better than other vehicles because you've got the Firefly at BR5, and I don't think that it could ever be in the same BR as the Firefly. It's one of those tanks. I feel like it's just kind of an unfortunate Enlisted-ism with it and the Hellcat that they kind of belong at BR4. They're actually some of the better placed AT guns, but because of the infantry combat around them, they feel terrible to have at that BR. Which maybe for those in particular, the solution is more based off of, like, map size and orientation and whatnot. But certainly when it comes to the M10, because the M10's gun is not the gun on the Achilles, it would certainly feel better at BR3, and it would actually see play as like a dedicated AT gun in my lineup at BR3. I don't think they actually have any low BR American AT guns, which is a little bit surprising, but because the British do have some that could go into this tech tree pretty comfortably. Same with the Soviets. I mean, they have the Su-76, which is actually, like, perfect, spot on, exactly where it should be at BR2. I think it's probably the best example of what I'm looking for here. So, the reason why the Su-76 is so awesome is if you look at BR2, right? If you want armor and you want like a well-rounded tank, you've got the T-50. But the problem with it is that the gun is kind of lackadaisical. If you want anti-infantry, you've got the T-28, which it's got a short 75. It does well enough against infantry, but the tank itself, its armor is kind of iffy, and the gun is terrible against tanks. But then you get the Su-76, right? And it's got a gun that's more similar to what you'd expect to find on like a BR3 T-34 or like on a KV-1. Like, the gun isn't the same as those, but it's got more in common with those guns. But it's an open-topped, relatively hull-locked tank destroyer, so they put it at BR2. It's basically what I'm advocating for all of the other tech trees, for all of the other AT guns. It is, like, the perfect shining example. Like, I could try to use the Dickermax as an example of this for Germany. The problem is that the Dickermax doesn't have, like, an analog in the tech tree anywhere because it's got the biggest gun in the German tech tree. It just happens to be at BR3. And the thing is, it probably shouldn't go to BR2. I think it's very well placed at BR3. Its armor holds up surprisingly well. Despite being hull-locked and open-topped, it has this massive gun, so it's able to deal with anything it runs into, and it feels like a very well-rounded, very well-placed tank destroyer. Basically, there's a few vehicles in this game, a few tank destroyers in this game, that feel perfect. Like, they absolutely nailed the placement. And so you've got the Dickermax, the Su-76. I think those are really the two that stand out to me. The Jagd Panther, to some extent. I mean, I would be happier with the Jagd Panther at BR4. It would actually see use for me. But I understand that having an 88 at BR4 is, like, scary. I guess that's a topic that's been breached now with the Tiger H1 there. So if you've got the Tiger H1 there, there's not really a reason why you couldn't put the Jagd Panther there. So maybe there's an argument to move it down to BR4. But it's okay, it's comfortable, it's similar enough to the other tanks at BR5 that, especially as a premium, that when you're leveling through the tech tree, I think it feels like it's in a good spot. So let me know what you think down below. Do you think tank destroyers actually are represented perfectly fine in the player base, or do you agree with me? Do you think that, by and large, the tank destroyers are over BR'd, and because they're over BR'd, they should be moved down so that people actually, play them as an option to kill tanks? Let me know. As per usual, get out there, kick ass, take names, and win your games.
Immer noch am Zappeln!